So here we are, we're on the other side of the loch now. It was about a 25-mile drive just to get to the other side, but we're here. And I'm going to try and continue with that same theme of abstract photography. I was hoping we would have a bit more of an autumnal feel to the trees, but as you can see, they are on the turn, but it's not quite as dramatic as I'd hoped. I'm just going to try and find a composition or two here. I'm wondering if there's a shot here using these little kind of gravel banks and the way the waves coming in are kind of wrapping around them. Yeah, and because we're effectively shooting into the sun, the little ripples that you get as they curve round the end of that gravel strip, they're catching the light and that's breaking up what would otherwise be quite a dark foreground. And I quite like that. I think it's unusual. That seems to be the sort of thing I'm going for today, is this kind of abstract kind of look. Yeah, you see the way the ripples are just breaking up that darker background, foreground even, sorry. Yeah, I like that. I think I'll set up and see if we can take a couple of probably long exposures again and yeah, try and make something of that. And you've got the reflections of the clouds in the water there as well, which is kind of just breaking that up as well. Yeah, something quite unusual, isn't it? Right, what do you make of this? This is actually, I just set up the camera with the intention of doing what I said and, you know, shooting the ripples as they came around the edge of that gravel bed. But when I got the camera out, we've got the sun, the disc of the sun there, just coming through that haze. And I think the whole thing actually looks quite dramatic as a landscape shot rather than the more abstract thing. So what I've done is I've set up a vertical orientation shot, and we're beginning about here, and then we're sweeping down, and we're including quite a lot of this darker foreground, but more importantly we're including the reflections of these clouds. And I'll just take this shot just now because the disc of the sun is causing this sunlight reflection here, and yeah, it looks very dramatic, very, very moody. And we're still getting to include these ripples and the waves as they can sweep through this little stream bed. So yeah, I'm just firing off a couple of frames. I'm being careful to try and get the exposure just right so that I can do this in one shot. I don't really want to faff about with exposure blending and stuff like that. What I'm going to do is go a bit tighter. As I said, I've included a lot of dead space down here, and the actual from the sun to the sun's reflection is probably about a third of the frame. I'm going to go in a bit tighter and see if I can fill the frame with that and see if that makes it look any more dramatic. But yeah, look, the sun's just starting to burst through that cloud again. So I'm going to quickly take that shot before the sun comes through and it's too bright. Right, that's typical. Two things happened there, both at the same time, and both of them conspired to pretty much ruin the shot. The waves stopped coming in. I think those waves were caused by, there was a speedboat went by about 5 minutes ago, and I think that's what was causing the wash to come in. So the waves have stopped coming in, and so you don't have that rippling effect. But more importantly, the sun has got way too bright. I think it's coming through a thinner part of the cloud now. And so that's burning out, and the reflection of the sun's burning out as well. So I'm having to take a couple of very dramatically underexposed images in the hope that I can retain some detail in these brighter parts. The sun's definitely going to burn out, and there's nothing I can do about that. But the reflection, I might be able to save that. And yeah, I don't know, with the waves having dropped, I don't think the shot's quite as eye-catching as it was. But yeah, still a nice shot, I think. The sun's does not. I've tried getting the camera higher and aiming down the way so that I can exclude the sun, but even the reflection of the sun is burning out now, so I don't think that's going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on that little gravelly outcrop there, because as you can see the waves are starting to wrap around that again, and I'm wondering if there's a shot there, because that's been lit up and I don't think that will burn out quite as easily. Right, I'm going to drag myself away from this scene for a second, because I've just noticed, because we have some direct sunlight now, well, slightly diffused, but we've got some sunlight, we're getting some nice colours on these trees, and also the lack of waves means that we're getting some really nice reflections as well. So I'm going to head back that over to the other side of the gravel bed there, on the other side of this fallen branch, and see if we can make some images of those reflections before another, I don't know what the collective term for waves is, but before another batch of waves comes in and ruins those reflections. Anybody know what the collective term is for a large number of waves? Oh, I've just noticed another speedboat out in the distance. So that means we're going to have another, whatever the word is, of waves come in. Probably in about 10 minutes from now, because it's over at the other end of the loch. So I'm going to quickly grab these reflection shots and then I'll come back here. Right, yeah, I've thrown the neutral density filter back on, and that's so that I can drag the exposure out again, because I want to have the loch as smooth as possible to maximise the reflections. Those waves from that speedboat are starting to come in, so I'm going to have to work quickly. Actually, I've just noticed this as well. I like the reflection here of this tree. Might try and grab that and all. Yeah, I think that's the wake from that speedboat starting to come in. So the reflections have been broken up quite a bit. I'm still grabbing a couple of shots in the hope that I get something, but for instance, I've lost the reflection of that tree there completely. But we do have slightly better light now on the trees, so I'm kind of working with them now. What a lovely relaxing way to spend the morning. Here come all those waves again. I quite like this shot. What I've been doing is using this pool as the leading line. It drags the eye up to that little area again there. You've got some little rocks breaking up the surface of the water. And my problem again though is I'm shooting directly into the sun, and that is really causing me some exposure problems. So I'm having to dramatically underexpose again, but then I kind of like that feel. That seems to be the kind of general vibe that I'm going for today. So I'm wondering if I go slightly out, see, the trick is to try and get the reflection of the sun on the rocks rather than on the water. So, something like that. And then you've got this leading line of the water's edge taking you up to this central area here, where all those waves and ripples and swirls are. Yeah, I like that. This is going to be very dramatically underexposed again so that I don't burn out the sky. Right, what I've done is I know I said I didn't want to do any exposure blending, but needs must. I've taken a shot where it's quite a long exposure so that I've got all the detail in this gravel, because I think I might want to paint some of that in. And this, not the composition was something like that. So I've taken that shot, and then I've taken some faster shutter speeds to try and retain the detail in the brighter sky. But now that I think about it, I think there might actually be a shot here as well. I just want to keep a gap here. Maybe get a little higher and shoot down. Now the problem is, of course, we're shooting into the sun again, so probably something like that. But yeah, that looks nice, doesn't it? I'll probably have to take a very, very fast shutter speed to try and retain some of the detail up near where the sun is. But yeah, that looks lovely. Or I might just crop it out. I might just not include the sun. Just something like that. Either way, I think there's a shot there. Right, I'll be back in a sec. Right, what do you make of this? A little collection of autumnal leaves have just fallen onto that rock that I was shooting earlier. The one that didn't have any fallen leaves on it. And I'm using that now as a foreground, and including the curve of the water, all that sort of stuff. But I think the leaves add something to it, and that was very, very fortunate that they fell there just as I was about to take this shot. Right, what do you make of this view? I like that. That's the end of that gravel bed that I'd been shooting earlier. But by kind of shooting it pretty much straight on now, you get this kind of layered effect where you've got, loch, gravel, loch, hills, sky. And I really like that. It's very minimalist, almost an abstract shot again. And yeah, I like that. What I've done is I've got up slightly higher, so as you can see that maximises the space behind the gravel bank. If you go down low, as you can see, it gets quite cluttered very quickly, so I've got up as high as the tripod will go, and I'm shooting down the way, and that's minimising the brighter sky, but it's also allowing me to to maximise that space. Right, I've taken that shot. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cross the stream. There is a bridge up there, but the water doesn't look too deep, so I'm just going to wade across and try shooting this gravel bank this time. But because I'll be on further to my left, I won't be shooting directly into the sun, and I just want to see how that looks. But these conditions are absolutely beautiful, aren't they? Right, let's go, let's get our feet wet. Right, the sun's popped behind this thicker cloud just now, so that's dropped the light levels, and I've found this huge boulder here in the loch, and I kind of like the way it sits with the reflection of the obscured sun. And again, I think that'll probably be a nice little square crop. Very basic composition, but that rock and the fact that we've got the reflection of the sun really just adds to the image, I think. So I'm going to underexpose again. I'll probably take a slightly longer exposure in case I need any details, but I'm going to expose for the highlight, which is obviously going to be the reflection of the sun, and we'll see how it looks. Is that no typical? Just as I set up the shot, got all framed up, the sun burst out again from behind that cloud. I've taken the shot anyway, but I don't think it's going to work. I think this area here, and obviously the sun, are just going to totally burn out. But yeah, I liked it. If you like this kind of image, you know, the kind of minimalist stuff, then you might be interested to know that I'm actually running a Kickstarter campaign just now to try and raise the funds to help publish my book from Japan, Transient Moments. There's a link in the description below to the Kickstarter campaign. It's running until, I think it's the 23rd or 24th of November, so there's a couple of weeks yet if you want to get involved. You can pick yourself up a signed copy of the book, or you can pick up limited edition prints, including some colour prints from what is a black and white collection, so they're extremely rare. So I think I'm going to call it a day from this location, Loch Lomond, East Bank and West Bank. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and if you're interested in the Kickstarter campaign that I've got running at the moment, I'll leave a link below. Also below there's a link to the newsletter if you want to sign up to that, and there's a link to my website and email address and all that if you want to drop me a line. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.